Hi everyone, Cal Spriggs here. With the advent of the new Thousand Sons Codex, I wanted to show how I got my wife's Thousand Sons Rubric Marines painted up and ready for the tabletop. Thousand Sons are my wife's army, and even before some of her health issues, I've been trying to get them in a good playable state for her for a while. My goal here was to use some of her favorite colors and still deliver both a variety and a cohesiveness to her army. The interesting thing with Rubric Marines is that while they're essentially ensorcelled power armor directed by the will of their sorceress masters, each cabal takes on some of the traits of their masters, so you get different colors and some variations of equipment based upon that. My wife loves purple and turquoise, so I went with those two colors, initially priming them white to make the colors more vibrant, and then coming in with Sotek green and Lexian purple contrast paints from Games Workshop. I left some of the details white, which I went in later and hit with Nazdrag yellow contrast paint to give it a more golden, brassy look. My wife has a lot of Thousand Sons Rubric Marines from multiple different eras of Games Workshop production. I'm just working on two of the squads here, one squad being the older metal and plastic Thousand Sons kit, with the newer squad being the all-plastic kit that comes with Warp Flamers. Painting these with contrast paints allowed me to knock out a lot of the Rubric Marines in a fast fashion, and you'll see later in the video I was able to come in later and paint details. One of the things I did to pull the paint schemes of all these models together was to have unified bases throughout our army in a desert theme, though often with bits of jade and gold from arcane ruins showing through the desert sand. You can see that I spent some extra time on the aspiring sorcerer in each squad. They serve as the squad leaders for the Rubric Marines, though in the lore they are often horrifically evil space marines who conjure up demons and the spirits of their fallen brothers to serve for their aspirations of power. A squad of Warp Flamer Rubric Marines is incredibly devastating, both in the old index and in the new codex. While this edition doesn't have the Flamer templates from previous editions or Horus Heresy, they still lay down a wall of flame, creating no-go zones for many armies that have no way to avoid their ability to overwatch. Also, the idea of them is just pretty cool, and my wife loves flame weapons, so it was really great to get them painted up and tabletop ready. You can see I'm painting them in a process, covering the same areas on each marine with the same colors, one after the other. If you're tackling large painting lots, this is the most efficient process I've found to do it. Generally, I put on an audiobook or a YouTube video in the background and just go from one to the next. Often I'll have a sample model painted so I can quick reference it. There's no real thinking involved here, just painting things as quickly and efficiently as possible. This is the easiest with large color blocks on models, the guns, the armor, and capes. Locking out the big colors quickly allowed me to come back in and fill in details later. When tackling painting a whole army, like I've had to do more times than I want to think about, getting the big color blocks done goes a long way to giving you a sense of making progress. Really, that's the biggest hurdle on these kinds of jobs, having that sense of progression so that you don't feel overwhelmed. With the first stages completed, I came back in to do the detail work. These are Egyptian-themed Space Marines, so that of course involved lots and lots of gold, both on their ornate helmets and on the trim of their armor. The nice thing with the primary colors I chose is that turquoise and purple both go great with gold accents, part of why you see that done in jewelry so often. There was lots and lots of detail on these guys. Picking out all of the detail took a long time. I mean, I've got it sped up to about 8 times speed here, and I'll let you do the math. This kind of detail work is actually one of my go-tos a lot of times when I'm stressed out or feeling overwhelmed. It takes a certain level of concentration to do all the little details. There's also a certain level of monotony as well, though, so you have to strike a balance with the mindfulness that comes of working on a project, the mental fatigue of doing the same thing over and over again, and keeping your brain engaged. Like I said, I put on audiobooks or videos in the background, and that helps tremendously with the monotony. Since I'm doing this project for my wife, there's also a feeling of satisfaction of doing this for someone else. I look forward to how excited she'll be on seeing the models I painted for her, and that helps motivate me to get the job done as well. The other part of this is breaking everything down into manageable sections and understanding your own skills and limitations. I want this to look good, but I also don't want to feel like it had to be perfect. I'm not painting a single model for display, I'm getting an entire army ready for the tabletop. They don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have every detail picked out. There's going to be dozens of models on the table. They just need to look good on that backdrop. Knowing what you can accept as good enough and painting to that standard is something you develop over time. There are things I did in her army to challenge myself, but there's also a lot of individual Rubric Marines who don't need to stand out from their fellows. They just need to rank up in squads. That brings me back to the aspiring sorcerers. These guys I spent quite a bit more time on, both the one I had painted earlier as a sample model and the newer kit plastic one to go with the flamers. These guys got a lot more attention because in most games they're going to stick around longer. They're also the motive force for the magic robot brothers, so they should be more eye-catching. With the aspiring sorcerer, I worked to pick out not only the details on the armor but also the helmet, staff, and the robes. There's a lot more that went into this than the others, and that's fine. I want there to be more to the unit champions when I paint an army. After all, they're the champions, right? It helps that Games Workshop adds a lot more detail onto the models that are supposed to be more important. In real life, the important people aren't always taller, more impressive, and covered in arcane runes that allow them to control unsorcered armor as an extension of their pure will. Thankfully, in a tabletop game, they are, so it's a lot easier to pick out those details and separate them from their fellows. Speaking of real life, here's my friendly reminder to like and subscribe. I'm not like Tzeentch. I can't promise you unlimited knowledge and eternal damnation in one offer, but what I can do is keep making videos here if people like them, so that seems like a pretty fair exchange to me. Also, if you like my content here, check out my Amazon page and the links below. I write books, lots of books, and I like to think they're pretty good. Speaking of pretty good, the aspiring sorcerer has turned out pretty nice, though I feel like I need to do something with his cloak and the loincloths of all the Rubric Space Marines as well. Before I get to that, with a firm hand, a fine detail brush, and lots of determination, it's time to paint the glowing eyes. This is, without a doubt, a job I hate and love at the same time. If you get the glowing eyes right, it's awesome. If you don't, well, it just sucks. Thankfully, this went well, and you can see I'm showing off the eyes on this guy. I'm not sure the camera does him justice, really. I was pretty happy with those eyes. Really looks like an evil space wizard now, right? But like I said, his cloak needs some work, and I wanted to tie all these Rubric Marines in together. I used purple on the armor of some and turquoise on the armor of others, so how to make them feel unified. Painting their cloth in the opposite color, of course. That way, they share colors through the army as a whole. It still looks somewhat chaotic, but this is a chaos army after all, and Tzeentch is ever fickle. Painting the cloth on these guys was really the final step. After this, I did a pass with some washes to grind them up a little bit, and then pull out some more details, and then they were ready for that final reveal. 20 Rubric Marines ready to stride forth and destroy in the name of their sorceress masters. I'm really happy with how these guys turned out. More importantly, my wife loves them, so I'll consider it a win. That's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.